Us, and we will start our conference. We are talking about transport interchange hubs. This issue was one of the mostly disputed issues. The transportation hubs were discussed for urban development. Architects discussed it. The public discussed it. Everyone discussed the hubs. So it is very clear why we decided to talk about it in the Moscow Urban Forum, and the issue of transport interchange hub is here, and we would like to present a research made by Nikken CK company, and together with Moscow Architecture and the Moscow General Planning Research and Project Institute. They decided to publish it in the Russian language. Sergey, could you please speak about it? Sergey Kuznetsov, Chief Architect of Moscow. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to the work of our Japanese colleagues today, we are very happy to present a very important book, but it's not simply an important one. It also covers an area which was not researched in our city. Despite the fact that we have been developing the program for hubs in the city, but we do not have so many implemented projects, but there are many hubs of large scale in the city, and unfortunately we feel the lack of them in the projects. We still cannot feel the scale of our work. How a transport interchange hub in the context of a large city can work is still a question to us. We will have our experience, but to understand better what place a hub in the city takes, what meaning it has for the city, we decided to publish the book where they describe the issue of transport interchange hub in the context of large cities, and we understand that we speak about the density of the city, the density of the hubs, how to do it correctly, properly, how to construct hubs without bringing disadvantage to the transportation system. It's a very important issue, a very important thing that must be discussed, and I'm sure that this book must be there. In Russian urban development, people didn't speak about this problem, and I can tell you, for example, about such transportation interchange hubs as Komsomolskaya metro station, the square with 3 railway stations, Savelovsky railway station, and so on. These are the largest transportation interchange hubs, or they must be main interchange hubs, but the construction works were never planned there. They were never described in the urban development plans, and transportation hubs did not mean places where the density of population is very high, and we must pay attention to it. We must have a new look at the same issue. Thank you, Sergey. We will analyze this book a little bit later and draw conclusions about it. And I would like to give the floor to Tira Gutierrez, the Minister of Japanese Embassy in Russia. My name is Miti. I'm the Embassy of Japan in Russia. I do not speak Russian. Yeah, but I would like to speak English.
Mr. Kuznetsov, Ms. Nigmaturina, Mr. Fadi, and Mr. Nakawaki Nikkenseke here. Dear colleagues, let me just say a few remarks on this occasion. Nikkenseke, who actually published this book, is one of the prominent leading Japanese architecture designing company, and we are most delighted that their work has been now introduced to this Russian society in Russian language. This book specializes in the concept of TPU, transportní пересадочный узел, which actually in Japan, we have been developing our major cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and other cities basically based on this idea, implementing this concept. And it would be really significant if now we can share the experience of this concept to our dear Russian friends and colleagues. Just talking about our recent bilateral relationship between Russia and Japan, we have been trying to strengthen our cooperation, including this urban city development. Recently, Russian delegation visited Japan, headed by Deputy Minister of Russian Construction, Housing and Utility Ministry, and we held government-private sector meeting in Tokyo just recently, December the 3rd, where we discussed how we can share our experience and identify the areas of cooperation to come up with further fruitful project so that we can help each other making our life better. Actually, to give more input to this process in Japan, we organized a council for urban development where there are now more than 100 Japanese construction and other related companies participating, and they just started work to explore how we can input to Russian urban development, and if there is any area which we can be helpful, we are more than happy to provide assist. So today's this event is one important step to begin this process. I hope this book will provide a great step forward to share our experience, and we hope we can have a tangible result in the recent years to come. So finally, once again, let me just also congratulate Nikken Sekkei and our colleagues from Moscow City, and we hope we'd like to see the progress made, and I also would like to wish all the success to the people in this room. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gutierrez, thank you so much for your speech. Мы уже сказали, насколько важно.
We have spoken about the importance of transport interchange hubs in Moscow, but I would like to give the floor to Ms. Nigmatulina. Thank you, dear colleagues. It's so pleasant for me to speak about the transport interchange hubs. I'm very glad that we have this book now. This issue is very important for us, and there is a session dedicated to this topic at the Moscow Urban Forum. From the point of view of the Moscow General Planning Research and Project Institute, as one of the oldest institutes in the city dealing with urban development and design, we understand that in the 21st century we must be future-oriented. What future orientation means? It means that we must understand all the complexities of a large city. When the population of a large city is even more than 2, 3, or 5 million people and goes beyond a figure of 10 million people. When we speak about such a large city, the most complicated issue is how they go from one place to another. It's a very important question. If people do not move in the city, there is no life in the city. How to ensure mobility in the city? It's a very important question, and here we need the art of urban development. I think the very essence of the logistics is in transportation interchange hubs. We want to develop public transportation, but the whole system of public transportation must work as one single system, not as one single system of railroad or system of metro or system of buses. Everything must be integrated. All means of public transportation must be parts of one big system. Passengers could go, for example, by metro, then take a bus and come to the place where they either work or live. A constant comfort is very important for us. And one of the issues very important for us when we speak about transportation interchange hubs, it's a priority for us to develop them. We have about 250 transportation hubs in the city that are planned to be implemented. Many of them are the so-called capital construction projects, but we must remember that the essence of transportation is a transport system. It must be planned very well. It must be comfortable for people, but at the same time, in the English language, there is such a term as transit-oriented development, which means the development of the territories in the area where people have good access to means of public transportation. When we speak about the project on transportation interchange hubs development in Moscow, we speak about it. When we speak about good logistics in the heart of the city, but at the same time we develop the city where we have good access to public transportation. And in this sense, the experience of Tokyo and Japan in particular is very, very interesting for us because it's a large city with so much population. We can easily compare it to Moscow, and the flows of passengers going around Tokyo is similar to what we have in Moscow. And I think that Mr. Fadi Jabri could speak about this issue too, because the flows of passengers, the transportation, and the volume of passengers is very interesting for us, and we are very happy to share experience with them. Thank you very much, Karima. And now I think we can present the book. It will be presented by the General Manager of Nikken CK in CIS, Middle East, Africa, and Japan, Mr. Fadi Jabri. First of all, let me express my gratitude to Sergey Kuznetsov, Karina Nigmatulina in the city of Moscow for your support of the project. Also, I would like to express my gratitude to Tira Gutierrez and to the members of the government who also participated in this process. I would also like to thank all the people, Yelena Domenko, Sergei Sheleshnev, who allowed us to publish the book in the Russian language. So let us fly to the city of Tokyo all together. You can see a picture of Tokyo of 1960s, and Tokyo, as every large city, suffered from the traffic jams. But if you go to the central part of the city now, you will be surprised how calm it is and free of any traffic jams. If we go to this district, you will see such beautiful sights and highly qualified public spaces, pedestrian areas, good connection between the buildings and metro stations. If you have a look from above, you can see here two views of Moscow and Tokyo. And you can see that in Tokyo there's a high concentration of nodes. You can see here the stations. One of them is located on the left. If you compare it to Moscow, it's very dense, but it's flat. The only thing which is high is Moscow city and Stalin's construction, and the concentration of city centers in the city are connected with the outskirts. For example, here you can see two examples. In Tokyo, there were two models, the so-called sub-centers, very dense, with multi-functions, and centers in the outskirts or in the suburban areas connected with the sub-centers in the city. If you have a look at the global structure of Tokyo, you can see red dots, about 13 centers, and in orange, you can see the places where the centers in the outskirts are being under development. Also, we can go to the level of the streets, of the pedestrians. Sometimes they say that it's not allowed to construct stations above the ground, but if you have a look at Prospect Mira, for example, there is a building above the metro station, but if you have a look at the integration, you will see that there is no integration there. Perhaps it would be right to say so. When you go by metro, you go out of the station, you have to go out of the entrance hall, cross the street. But if you have a look at Tokyo Midtown, one of sub-centers, public space is really well organized here. Underground areas are also well established, and there's a connection between different stations underground. It all gives us very comfortable access from the entrance halls and stations to the buildings. Let's go further. One more issue of concern in Moscow is that the projects try to cut the height and the volume because there are so many problems with the traffic jams. The busiest station is Komsomolska and Vykhina, as I have found out, about 175,000 passengers per day. And if you compare it to the busiest station in Tokyo, you can see a totally different number, 3,500,000 people per day, and there are many such busy stations there, more than 2 million, more than 3 million people per day. It all means that we must not try to cut the density. If you design the station correctly, people would use public transportation and not their own cars because it will be more efficient, cost efficient, and comfortable for them to use public means of transportation. There was a new project in Osaka, Grad Fronte, as you could see it on the slide, one of the buildings, and there you can see a flow of people going out of the station who go to the complex of buildings, and they go through such beautiful, nice areas where there is retail, and in general they have really high quality. The flow of passengers is high, so it is organized not only above the ground but also inside of the glass corridor, as you can see it on the first floor. And it is a multifunctional building, offices, hotels, residential areas. And now I would like to tell you a few words about our book.
It's me.
So there are 8 chapters. The first chapter is the description of the concept, the integration of the stations with the territories around surrounding territories. So, and introduction. The second chapter and third chapter describe 2 different models. The ones I showed you, the model in the city and the suburban model. The fourth chapter is the methods of design for city planning and their integration of the city space. So here we have to integrate the ministry and the city. The chapter number 5 shows summarizes the previous chapter and shows the model that is more usable for integrated development of the space around the stations in the big cities. The 6th chapter is the peculiarities of the business and railroad business in Japan. The chapter number 7 is the transitional, is the prices in the context of the city structure of Tokyo City, and the last chapter is about Russia. It has a part of the general plan of Moscow and describes some of our projects in Russia and in Moscow. The work was it was a successful work of 3 or 4 years of our specialists and experts. It has an English, Japanese, and Russian edition. We'll join next year with the partnership of the General Plan of Moscow, and we will organize a number of events and lectures with our experts. And our experts will talk to you, and we will have discussions together. So thank you very much. I hope you know the lectures will start next year. So this short presentation, they are only to make interest even bigger. But after that, you'll have a question: where can experts study the Russian text of the familiarize themselves with the Russian text of the book? Oh, can I answer? So that's a person you can take all the contacts. So here, mark this person, please. So what will this be? This book will be sold openly in the bookshops or not? Or should you find some specialists to take the contacts? No, we haven't thought about it yet, whether we'll sell it or not. but it exists, this book, and we are happy to distribute it, and we can sell it if you want. Okay, you know what I want. So thank you very much, colleagues. You have 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4 for the questions, if you have any questions that you want to ask. Yeah, please. Who has a question? Can you please tell me? Mr. Speakers, I'm very happy for your presentation, but I have a question to Ira Nigmatulina. Can you please tell me what is the current situation with the transportation interchange hub in the Himki station, in the Himki area? It's just a question of personal interest. Yeah, I know, the book is interesting, but there are always more pressing questions. And after the, well, to know the answer for this question, there is a specialist that's sitting in the first row. He wrote a PhD on this, on all the transportation in Moscow, and he's the biggest expert in transportation in Moscow. And now, if you have any questions about the book, and the speakers are very good, so they showed everybody. Okay, you showed us the stations, metro stations in Japan, and there are very long steps, very long step passages. What did you do to make it more accessible for the people with their health problems, for example? And there are lifts, there are special, and all these, for the disabled people, there are special toilets, and there are lifts, and all the infrastructure is put into place for people with their limited mobility. So, yeah, speaking about Osaka, yeah, there are a lot of steps there. But when people go to the platform, there is a long corridor that starts directly at the platform, and this corridor is a flat one, and it goes through all 4 buildings of the station. Well, you say that you can't see this corridor when you're at the platform, but it's not hidden. Well, out of my own experience, I was in Tokyo in summer, and my colleagues from Nikkei and Sekkei showed me how comfortable this is. There are very technological lifts that are not typical, so you can't see this type of lifts here in Moscow. It's entirely different approach to the design, and so the question of lifts and all the problems related to the movement for namely with the limited mobility persons is also solved. So now a short questions. You have been in Tokyo. What is the Tokyo experience on transportation interchange hubs? Can it be used in Russia? Can this model be adopted in Russia or not? Because you have many differences in Russia. I can't say that you can't directly adopt this model because different countries have different infrastructures. But there is a plus because our colleagues, they worked here together with us, so we have a close partnership and we make design together. You can't just simply take the model from other countries and put it and use it here directly. You have to change it. But if you see the infrastructure of Tokyo, you can see it is clear that they already have the infrastructure in Tokyo. And in Russia, for example, when we have we already have a developed city, a historically rich city with a lot of historical heritage sites, it is very difficult to introduce a new model. And we have our own laws, our own cultural sense, and our own cultural sense about how we should interact with these cultural heritage sites. And we have a skyline in some parts of the city, and we are very proud that it is so open. And so, you know, there are differences, and we have to adapt to this. But there are many areas and territories that could use this model and to greatly improve their life. So we don't have time for the mic, so please use English or Russian. So I have a short comment. It's all very good when we see the example of Monaco, Switzerland, Japan. But every day I start my way to work at the Ikeevskaya station, and there is a very small lift. It should be working, and it should be usable by disabled people. But but you know that sometimes there are people that There are younger people that have a central cord syndrome, for example. So they are young and they can only walk with the use of the stick. So how can they really climb all the barriers on the way to this lift? Maybe you should develop some standards to cope with this situation. Yeah, I understand your sense. It's a very important element. So when we are speaking about interchange hubs, we we have to design for the future. That is what the designers have to do. Design for the future. You can't just design for today, because in 20 years, there will still be stationed here. And if we only see the current situation, the situation of today, it's a catastrophe, it's a stagnation and no win situation for the city. So the strategy is very important, and even when we see the technological solutions that are used and successful abroad, it is our future, maybe. Colleagues, I'm very sorry, but we don't have time. You have all seen the contact person. You can all ask speakers in person if you have any more questions. Thanks everybody for coming here today, and thanks for the presentation of the book and for the hall and the audience for their attention. So please turn on your mobile phones again. Thanks.